They're like 24, 25 pounds.
Wow.
Massive.
Yeah.
I told you before, you're rearing an offensive lineman.
Yeah, we call him Baby Gronkowski. I'm hoping for tight end, but
But I'm looking forward to the day where I can look at real people,
Me too.
you know?
I'm real.
I know, but you're through a camera. It's kind of nice to see people's offices and where they hang out and, you know?
I actually had to come up to the actual office at NMU because faculty evaluations are due at the end of the day.
Oh, I see. Is it pretty quiet?
It's a ghost town, yes, sir. There's 6 cars in the parking lot
Isn't that amazing?
that I can see.
The day of the weekend of graduation. I'm on the board of the Grand Rapids Public Museum, and we're documenting this COVID-19 for displays 100 years from now, you know, in Grand Rapids, people who will remember. We should hope we're doing that at Northern, keeping the archives of kind of the stories and kind of the emails and memos and stuff. Smile, smile. There you go. Zoom is like an elevator. Nobody ever talks in an elevator either, so don't worry about it, you know?
Jim, it seems like you like this. You like the chit chat. Are you an elevator talker too?
Yeah, I always talk in elevators, you know? I even call the floors like second floor, men's shoes, third floor, you know, just like the old people used to do.
Well, I usually tell people when I'm riding up the elevator, whatever floor they're getting off on, I said, I wouldn't go to that floor.
That's right, that's right.
Jim, you're just remembering the old Houseman's downtown Grand Rapids.
You got that correctly, Carrie. And the Michigan Trust Building.
Fritz, when you're telling them not to go to that floor, is that your office floor?
No, it's usually where the College of Business is. I say that's just much too scary.
Oh, are we starting it right now? Are we supposed to be starting?
We're starting.
Okay. Hi. Oh, hi, Alexis.
Hey, Alexis.
Hi. I'm just hanging out on Lake Superior today. Got the dome behind me.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I don't know how to do that. So,
I'll show you how to do it later.
okay.
All right. I actually have a Game of Thrones one where I'm sitting in the throne. That's pretty cool. So, all right. So I think our first order of business today is the Academic Affairs Committee. I'm not sure who, if anyone can present, but I believe that we have a few presentations as well. So Carrie, I don't know if you're going to bring those up or Alex going to bring something up.
Alexis, you should have an agenda, because there's an agenda that outlines what, so first up would be the Senate report.
Yeah.
And you have several presentations that'll be coming. You have a lot of faculty on. So
Yep. Okay. So again, I think so we should begin with the the Senate report. I'm looking actually at the detailed agenda. Let me find the overall agenda for the day. Let me find the more detailed one. But if we want to go ahead and get started then with the academic affairs report out, if that's first on our list.
That's the Senate. Go ahead,
Sure.
Alex.
Okay, Senate.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, I gave you a fairly detailed report of the activities of the Senate. You know, it was, I'm not sure where to start. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic sort of changed everybody's lives, including the Senate's lives at the end of the semester. But before that, it's hard to remember, but there was a time before that, and we were also quite busy. Senate had a lot going on this year, and you guys heard other reports from me throughout the year about Senate activities. Our curriculum committees, both the undergraduate programs committee and the graduate programs committee, had a lot of business to attend to, and to a large degree, this was, I mean, there's always a lot of curricular changes going through those committees, but this year was particularly heavy load because it was sort of the post SRA outcomes that there's a lot of curricular changes going on, and those will probably still continue into the next year. There were, I guess I'd be happy to talk about, you know, a lot of these changes that we approved. Well, one of the things that I guess I'll say maybe most significantly is all of the changes that made it through our committees. They came to the full Senate. They got 2 readings. Sometimes there was active debate, sometimes very active debate, other times a lot less. But then all of our recommendations made it to the provost, and all of those were approved by the provost and moved forward. And so that's always a good thing. I mean, I feel like that sort of helps show that the system is working. It doesn't necessarily mean that things didn't get revised. It certainly, there's oftentimes a misperception that there's sort of rubber stamping going on, but that's not what the Senate does. It's not what our committees do. It's not what the provost does. We have a good conversation as proposals are being developed so that they can make it through to the end. But I think like even most Senates, or at least most functional Senates, should work. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I noted here, sort of summaries for each of our committee activities. I'll say that we, as far as our operations with COVID-19, we of course then quickly went to Zoom meetings. The only caveat, but I don't think it was terrible. We didn't have anything. We don't necessarily have things that are terribly controversial at the end of the year. Usually, all of our motions get 2 readings, where sort of the first reading is one for questions, and then everybody gets to take those whatever those matters are, those reports. They take those back for 2 weeks, think on them, discuss them with their departments, and they come back 2 weeks later and we have debate and then a vote. Because of the COVID crisis, our last 3 meetings, we essentially voted to forego. We moved everything to a second reading right away. Everyone votes on that. It wasn't just an act of mine, but we voted to do that just because we had important business that needed to be taken care of. For instance, we have to approve the list of graduates, and sort of not knowing whether we'd have subsequent meetings, whether we might be sort of closed down or prevented from doing that. We just wanted to make sure while we were meeting and while we had a quorum, we'd get our business done. But there wasn't, I don't think we necessarily lost anything in the way of sort of the democratic or sort of a transparent democratic process. Moving forward, I think we're into the next year. There are of course going to be some changes. Everyone is considering those. Probably most significantly right now that's on the Senate's plate is Provost Schuling has gotten the Senate Executive Committee on board to consider the calendar for next year. And I think that was actually something that Fritz had asked for everybody to do, be thinking about possible new start dates, thinking about different ways we can organize the academic calendar. And that's something that Senate has to do. So we had that first meeting. I also invited Norma Froelich here. So Norma's, at the moment, she's still vice chair of the Senate, but after this meeting, I will be stepping down as chair of the Senate, and Norma will be taking over as chair of the Senate. So I wanted everybody, I don't know if you can see her, if you all have her on your screen, but that's Norma, and she's taking over the chair of the Senate, and she's going to be running things. She's been, vice chair for 3 years, 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, and she's our Senate parliamentarian. She was on the calendar committee the last time around. So all of this stuff, Norma will not only slip right into the role very easily, she will undoubtedly do a better job. So it's great for everybody.
I doubt that.
And, yeah, but it'll be, we have an executive committee that is composed of both some veterans who have some knowledge from past years, and then a couple of new members as well. But I wanted to be sure to introduce Norma to you all and let you know where things are going. So I don't want to. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any. Otherwise, you have my report.
Any questions from any of the Academic Affairs Committee members?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you to Alec for his incredible leadership. It's always a pleasure working with him, and he did another outstanding job. So it's off to you, and I hope you have a wonderful sabbatical in spite of the virus. And I look very forward to working with Norma. So continuing to work with her, I should say.
Yeah.
I guess if I could say, I would like to also thank Alec. Any success that I actually have in chairing the Senate in the future is because I've been watching a very competent chair for the last 3 years. So
Thanks.
Wonderful. Yeah, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees, Alec, thank you very much for your leadership. It's crazy times that we're going through, and Norma, you've got big shoes to fill, but welcome aboard, and we look forward to working with you. And it's going to be some interesting times ahead of us, and we're looking forward to working with you.
As an ex officio member, I just want to say, Alec, you are a delight to work with. When I read that extensive report, I thought, my God, it took an enormous amount of time just to compile and write this report, much yet to do all the work. And it is always wonderful. Alec and I first met when we worked on the search committee for Fritz back when I was new on the board, and he's just an extraordinary guy. Norma, I'm sure you're going to do as great a job as well. But Alec, good luck to you, my friend, and take care of those wonderful kids. And thank you for all you've done.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I appreciate all those kind words. I will strangely miss the Senate and miss engaging like this. Don't hesitate to call on me if I can continue to help. But yeah, Norma will be great. So
Wonderful. Thanks, Alec, and welcome, Norma. Next on the agenda, Casey, I see you're on the line with us, and you're going to provide us an update on the charter schools as well as reauthorizations.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And as Alex said, obviously COVID-19 has played a big role in my updates for you all. So I will give you a 100,000 foot view. Basically, as the COVID-19 started to impact the schools. You may recall that on March 16th is when the schools were officially closed. And then April 2nd is when the governor signed 2020-35, which closed the schools for the remainder of the year. If you hadn't looked into that with a great amount of detail, you might not have noticed, but within the 2020-35, it actually gave the authority to the authorizers to approve their public school academy continuity of learning plans. And so as part of the governor's executive order back actually just about 4 weeks ago from today, was an idea that schools, in order to receive funding, had to create this plan. The plan was basically a 15-question application, if you will. Through that process, what our schools had to do was, first of all, draft it and then submit it to our office. The council, the Michigan Council for Charter School Authorizers, along with our general counsel, DICOMA, went through the executive order fine-tooth and identified a lot of criteria for approving. And so for the most part of the first couple of weeks in April, our office staff was focused on approving those plans and getting them up and running. Unique thing for us was I did work with our monitoring team, 3 professors in the school. So we had internal review as well as an external review to review those plans. Good news is that we were way ahead of the curve, and we were the first authorizer to have all 100% of our plans approved. And so we had them approved by the 17th. Their plans were required by the state to be implemented by the 28th, and our schools were all up and running long before that. The last one, I believe, went on board on the 20th. And so a big kudos to the staff, my staff, and then the external folks as well. With that, that's kind of the big picture process on how things have gone. And I'll say it in 2 quick statements. Since the closing of the schools, our 9 schools have served over 120,000 meals. So I'll let that sink in for just a second. Our 9 schools have served over 120,000 meals to the students in their communities. And so that alone, several of the schools were identified as the sites for local areas. So for example, Francis Ray in Saginaw has delivered over 50,000 meals in the last month. And so those, what happened through federal waivers and state waivers, schools became distribution centers in some locations. And so Francis Ray was one of those. And so they were serving meals to students and actually to all children who would come into their school. So that's a highlight, that our schools, as you're all well aware, typically are in underserved, underprivileged communities, but yet these schools have been beacons in terms of just being a safe spot. The second thing is prior to April 2nd. So in the window from when the governor first closed the schools until she closed them for the remainder of the year, I'm happy to inform that our schools averaged about 50 to 70% already made contact with about 50 to 70% of their students. And so not required, they were already reaching out to the communities they served. After the April 2nd and over the past month that they've started to implement these, we have upwards of 90% plus, and some of our schools are already documenting 100% of their students have had one-to-one touch points already. And so this is a pretty amazing thing when you think about it, because multiple students in multiple settings are in areas that don't even have internet access. And so they've had to do phone calls, and they've had, phone numbers that are not even listed anymore. And so our schools have, the message I'm trying to let you know about is our schools have gone way above and beyond and are doing an exceptional job reaching out. So at this stage, they've all had these plans that the plans are up to the schools, and through the governor's executive order, we as authorizers were supposed to hold flexibility and good faith as two of our criteria. And all of the schools are using some sort of a hybrid method where packets or workbooks and for a lack of a better phrase, a correspondence style instruction is taking place for students who don't have internet access, or they might be using that as their foundation content that's being delivered, and then technology is the enhancer. Some schools have dove right in and are using Google Classroom right away and doing that with upwards of 85, 95% of their students. And so it's a wide variety of how the schools look. So with that, and with that's just like I said, 100,000 foot. Do you have any questions on how they've responded to the COVID-19?
No comments on my end, but fantastic update, and it's wonderful to see how they are serving the students in the communities. That's just fantastic.
It is one of our, like I said, it is a pride point. They've reached out very, very well. Right now, I'll shift into a second quick update. Prior to COVID-19, I'm happy to inform you, if you didn't hear or didn't see, there was a news blast through Northern that two of our leaders, so Andrea Ballard at North Star Montessori here in Marquette, and Kate Scheid-Weber, who's the principal at Francis Ray in Saginaw, both were nominated and selected as semifinalists in the MAPSA Administrator of the Year process in the award. And so those two were finalists. MAPSA is the Michigan Association of Public School Academies. And so, there's over 1,000 of these administrators out in the state, and those two ladies had done a fabulous job for us and were actually rightfully selected, in my opinion. And so that was a really neat kudos to them to get to participate. The charter school day at the Capitol is upcoming on the 13th, and that's where they announce the winners. And I know neither one of them have won because we were on the inside, but the top 5 finalists were already announced. And, so they are, kudos to those two leaders. That's kind of the updates from the office. So with that, what I'll do is I'll shift gears and I'll talk about the reauthorization and some recommendations. So with your board packet, you should have 2 memos that I'd put together for the reauthorizations. And so we have Nottawash being reauthorized and JKL Bowding. And so those are 2 schools in the Upper Peninsula. And I'll speak about Nottawash first. If you recall from last year, we had George Crockett Academy that I recommended a 2+3 contract for a variety of reasons. And so rather than a 5-year contract, I said 2 years with some stipulations. And if they hit the mark, then they'll get this next 3 years. With Nottawash, that is my recommendation. I would like to recommend to you all to consider offering Nottawash a contract for 2 years with a +3 extension. Right on the very cover page of that memo, I outline 4 reasons why I strongly feel that that's the best route to go. The biggest reason in my mind is there has been a slide in their academic performance and academic growth. That might be due to their superintendent who retired in, not retired, but he quit in September. And so they had a superintendent for about 4 years that had done a masterful job on facilities, but they had a slide in their academic performance. They had some staff turnover. They had lots of building projects that needed to go on. And so now they still have this superintendent search open. And so as soon as they hire that new superintendent, I've been kind of in communication with the board around these areas. And what I want is as soon as they hire that person, obviously I'll have a meeting with them and set some really clear expectations regarding those areas. So if they were to hit those 2, then they would just get a +3 additional years. So that's my recommendation for Nottawash. And at this time, I'll just say, I'll turn it over because I think you vote on each school separately, if I recall from last year. Are there any questions about Nottawash?
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
I'm just curious about what the supports are for the schools to allow them to increase their, in this case, performance, academic performance. What supports are available to the schools to turn around that performance?
So one thing that we have is we have a great working relationship with NWEA, and that's the MAP testing company. And our schools all have to take the MAP, and we do provide, for schools that are interested, individual site-based professional development based upon the MAP. And so the previous administrator had kind of let go of some of those, and he was an outstanding facilities guy. If he would have spent half his energy on academics, they would have been blossoming. And so that's definitely one thing that we have. The second thing that and this is a great example, is last year we provided a $20,000 curriculum enhancement award that they could have applied for, and that school didn't even apply to use one. And that was designed to improve their math achievement across my schools that could have hired math coaches or bought access to software or whatever. And so 8 of the 9 schools tapped into that resource. They didn't. And so some of the resources that we have, and then we have other state-based resources that we can help point them through their intermediate school districts. And so there's lots of supports for an administrator who is actively pursuing them. So does that kind of clear that up?
It does. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Awesome.
that. Mhm.
Trustee Hart, you're on mute. I think I see you talking.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone on the Academic Affairs Committee for the Nottawash School?
Nope.
Okay, so we'll put this forward in our meeting this afternoon for a formal vote with the full board.
Oh, yeah. So then I can go ahead and speak to the second one now then, and since you have to take it forward.
Yep.
Absolutely. So the other school, JKL Bowding, is slam dunk in my opinion. They're high performing on academics, both proficiency and growth. They consistently outperform their local districts. They outperform the state. They've got an amazing fund balance. They have very, very high marks on all of their compliance issues. And so to me, that one is a recommended 5-year term. Whoops, Trustee Hart, you went on mute again.
You know, I thought I learned a new trick when I press my space bar, but when I'm not in the Zoom and I press it, apparently it doesn't unmute. So learning all sorts of new technologies here.
Exactly.
Casey, what's the difference? So on the Nottawash, you know, we have the two year with an option of another 3-year extension. This one's for 5 years. Why do these differ when we do these?
So in general, when schools are performing and meeting our expectations, their typical term would be 5 years. If a term is shorter than that, it usually is dependent upon the severity of the reasons why that things are causing you to hesitate to give them a 5-year. Across the state, most authorizers would have about a 3 to 7 year term, with an average of all of us usually have about 3 to 5. Typically the 5 years kind of that good catch-all where it's short enough that you can see troubles arise if things are coming up. It's long enough that you're not having to do it so frequently. The 2 is important to me because with Nottawash, the last 2 years of academic performance have been the real sliders. And so it's very likely that with some concentrated efforts, they could definitely show some improvement in 2 years. And that's going to be where in just 1 year time, I would be able to start to say, good, some things are starting to go better. And if the same superintendent's in their office, in their building, then in 2 years, you'd have that confidence that, okay, another 3 years would be extended. But that's kind of my rationale in selecting 2. I could have gone with 3, but I think that a 2 is a much more pronounced. It speaks a little louder to them to say, wow, we're really on the we need to step it up list. And to me, the slide in academic growth is the thing that's really my biggest issue, because as you're aware, all of our schools are, they might have lower performance given the student bodies, but when you start sliding in growth, which they have, that's just a major indicator that, if something doesn't turn around in another 2 years, then that's a real big red flag.
Okay. So it's a bit of a probationary period.
Well said.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. So for the formals, we'll bring both Nottawash and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. JKL Boateng.
Yeah, Boateng. So it's
Boateng.
And
Like
then
I'm
the H
bowing.
is pronounced as well. Boateng. Boateng.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Any other questions for Casey? Nope. Okay.
Well, thank you all for your time. I will just bow out as you speak about new programs.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep,
Appreciate
bye
it. So up next on the agenda, we have a few discussions and programs to review for the new program approvals. Carrie, is there any kind of opening remarks before we go to the specific areas and departments?
No, they'll go through each one for you, Alexis, and then you can see if you have any questions. You have all
right.
the information in your packet, that you've got the
Yep.
PowerPoints.
So I think up first, we're going to be talking about the computer science master's degree. So do we have JD Phillips on the line?
Yep, I'm here and I think I'm unmuted now.
You are. You
All
are.
right.
I see a guitar back there. Are you a guitar player?
I am, and there are 5 people in my family. We have a beautiful home, but it's wide open. So there's just this one little nook where my guitar is kind of hidden and I can do this.
All right, fantastic. Let's hear about the mathematics and computer science master's program, JD.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for being here this afternoon and for inviting me, and for also thank you very much for all of you difficult work, hard work during these challenging times. As I look at the headline, the title page for this proposal, I see that my name is on it. It should probably be Hadi Shafei, one of our junior computer scientists who really took the lead on this. He really guided us to a really nice proposal here. So next page, please. Okay, so right now we'll just put up some of the features of the program. I'll just point out we anticipate for a typical student it would take 2 years. It's 32 credit hours. I would say that the content and the format puts it right on par with peer institutions. The next one is a little bit unique to computer science. So students they'll choose 3 areas to emphasize, and you can see the 5 areas listed. Computer science, certainly more than most, maybe more than any discipline, changes really quickly. So we have to our goal with computer science is to be really quite nimble. So these 5 areas might change, but certainly will change probably within the first few years. And then students will be able to choose between a thesis or a project. Next slide, please. Oh, not next slide. There was one more line back there. Oh, right. So this is our enrollment targets, which were constructed before I'd heard the words COVID-19. I think that we can still hit these targets, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But we think that 10 students in the first year, 20 in year 2, probably in year 3, and then beyond that, we think we could actually have more than 25, but that would be about our capacity given our faculty. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we have 2 pages of rationale. You could probably just put up all those circles now. Everybody can read those. The punchline to all these circles is that so anybody who says they can predict the future is delusional, but we can make, you know, probabilistic predictions. And so with relatively high probability, the job outlook is rosy for computer science graduates, and in particular, maybe rosier for computer science graduates from graduate programs. So I think you can call up a few more of those bubbles. So obviously increased salaries for people with graduate degrees by 21%. So that's a statistic, and it's just a probabilistic estimate, but it's rosier than most disciplines. Okay, next slide. There's another slide of rationale. Okay, so you can read all of those, but I'll just say that if you simply Google best job prospects, you'll find even more. So we could fill 20 pages of that. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the niftiest things about this program is that we think that it will be completely covered by the cost will be covered by student tuition. You see that we need no new facilities. There's no accreditation. We would need another faculty member. So the student's tuition would cover another faculty member. We can do it in the first year without hiring a tenure track person. So we have time to hire a really talented tenure track person, PhD in computer science. But we would need an adjunct for the first year to limp us through. That's it. I would add, again, these slides were, the program was designed before COVID. Again, you can't predict the future, but traditionally during tough economic times, especially recession, which we're probably heading into, graduate student enrollments increased. Young people think, well, I'm gonna hold off entering the job market and increase my credentials. So I think that it's almost macabre, but I think that in some ways for this particular program, I'm not as concerned about enrollments as I am for the undergraduate programs. And that's an outline. I mean, I'd be happy to hear any questions.
Okay. Obviously a very relevant field, you know, something that is continuing to evolve and will do so for a long time. Seems to make a lot of sense. I agree. I don't think that the enrollment piece will be a big factor. So.
Great.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Carol is going to be up next and walk us through the Masters of the MBA with a concentration in accounting.
Again, I'd like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you about this program. I am especially excited about this because I think it's an opportunity for our students to really do some neat things and actually help our MBA program at the same time. Next slide, please. For those of you that aren't familiar, there is a specific pathway for an individual to become a certified public accountant. And one of the things that kind of guides that is that there needs to be 150 credit hours of higher education completed. And there are some specifics as to what needs to be part of that curriculum. And so what we've done in the past is we have, you know, made sure that we followed that basically from the undergraduate level. During the SRA, we had an opportunity to look at our program and to decide, would it be possible to take this program and repackage it so that students could leave the program with a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA with a concentration in accounting and still have the eligibility to sit for a CPA exam. And so that's basically what we did, is we took a look at the regulations from the state, and I've listed what the admin rule is, and it tells us exactly what we have to have. So what we tried to do was we tried to really repackage what we are currently providing and then add some updates for what's actually happening in industry today. Next slide, please. For those of you, again, that aren't familiar, once a student completes their education and they would like to be a CPA, they actually have to prove it. So they have to sit for some examinations in specific areas. And there are rules about passing all 4 within 18 months and having a minimum score. There is another thing that's important in being an accountant, and that is the idea of maintaining a state licensure and using and completing continuing education units. So there is individuals who are in this program have to maintain currency. And again, this is something that we probably will take a look at down the road, offering some of these to professionals in our area. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, what we decided to do was we take a look at our 120-hour BS in accounting. We currently have 2 programs that are 150-hour undergraduate programs in corporate finance and accounting and in accounting and information systems. What we hope to do is suspend those programs and encourage students, if they still wish to get a bachelor's degree in accounting at the 120 credits, they may do so. But during that senior year, they may apply to the Master's of Business Administration program and enroll in a 1-year full-time program. We're adding 2 new graduate courses, one in accounting research and one in CPA or CMA problems. We also are going to have a mandatory internship so that students can actually get out in the workplace and work on some application type of issues or work in a tax office if they're interested. We currently in our MBA program offer 1 accounting course. It's managerial accounting. As an experiment, we're offering that managerial accounting class this summer, and we have 15 students enrolled in it already. So I think this is going to be a program that students will really jump on board with. You can see that it's a 30-credit master's. Our MBA, just our concentrated, our regular MBA is 36 credits, but this program will be a 30-credit master's. We also added a course called the Portfolio Capstone Project. And that project is something that we have all of our MBA students do. So that is actually enhancing the program, both of them actually. So next slide, please. We will have this program as accredited through AACSB, just like our regular MBA program. We anticipate enrollment to be, pretty stable. We have pretty stable enrollment in our undergraduate accounting program right now. And in the past, we have always looked at our accounting program as kind of like the flagship of the College of Business. It's been very strong. We've had great placements. And I think this is just going to make us that much stronger. It has been said to us, students are spending 150 credit hours here at the university. What a great opportunity to be able to provide them with both a bachelor's degree and a master's in the same amount of time. Obviously, with that additional credential, because these students will have actually a BS, an MBA, and probably a CPA, their earning potential will be significant. And we actually think that this is really going to be something that we'll be able to market. And like I said, we have 15 students already enrolled in our summer course right now. So I think it's going to be a good thing. Next slide. Resources. That's always something that we have to pay close attention to. We currently have 4 tenure track lines in accounting. And that's important because there are, according to our bylaws, additional requirements that are necessary for faculty to, in terms of scholarship, to teach in the MBA program. And so we'll have 4 tenure track lines in accounting. We have 1 term instructor, and I'm hoping to renew that term. Usually, and depending on what's happening in our area, we'll need between 1 to 2 adjunct instructors to teach maybe 1 class or 2 classes, depending on what's going on with faculty, if there's sabbaticals or service commitments. The classes that we currently offer in our MBA program do have excess capacity. So the courses the 12 credits of the regular MBA that students will take in this program, we feel as though we'll have enough capacity to do that. So are there any questions that you have with respect to this? Next slide.
I do.
Yes.
So Carol, maybe I should already know this, but what do we offer now for accounting students that want to take the CPA exam?
We have the two, Lisa, the 250-hour programs, because
Okay.
you have to have that 100, and
Right.
one is a bachelor's in accounting with a concentration in corporate finance, and the
Okay.
other is an accounting degree with an emphasis in information systems.
So that's like a 5-year program without the MBA.
Right,
Okay. And so we're basically giving them the MBA,
we are.
not
Mhm.
giving it to them, but you know what I mean?
They're earning it, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. You know, it's
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
because our term appointment, actually, a young woman who went to Michigan State for her undergrad in accounting, got her master's in tech, I think it's a master's in accounting from Illinois. And she said, I don't know why somebody would go for 150 hours and just get a bachelor's. She said,
Yeah.
you know, most people want that master's as well.
Yeah.
One never knows where you're going to be if you're going to stay in public accounting, but still having your license, those are great things.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great idea.
Mhm.
Very good. Any other questions, Donna? Anything from your side?
No, thanks for asking though.
Okay. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks.
And
I get to talk
next
again. Sorry. The next new program that we're really excited about is the Cyber Defense Certificate. So Kathy, next slide, please. So what we're trying to do with the certificate, again, you know, is provide a pathway so that and foundational skills so that students can actually start in the career field of cyber defense. And the courses that we've chosen to put as part of this certificate, and there are 4 of them, are actually part of and endorsed by the Department of Homeland Security, the National Security Agency, and the Department of Defense. So those are pretty strong credentials. And so what students can do is they would be in a much stronger position to further their skills through work experience. And if they decide once they complete the certificate, they can continue on in advanced training. So there is a direct ladder into our bachelor, our associate degree in information assurance, cyber defense, and our bachelor's degree. Next slide, please. We've talked about, and I'm sure you've seen the news, there's so much demand for individuals that have a skill set and knowledge and the ability to work in cyber defense. And what we're trying to do is provide that opportunity in a couple of ways. That entry point being that certificate, so that maybe students can start, attempt, be successful, and then continue on. And so we really feel as though we're trying to do our part to meet the demand, because it really is out there. From small to medium to large size companies are all concerned about information assurance, cyber defense. Next slide, please. We also believe that this particular certificate is going to support the efforts of the Upper Peninsula Cyber Hub. As we've told you in the past, we do plan to become a center of academic excellence, and we're working very hard toward that designation. It's going to add prestige to our university and to our program. And again, I just can't stress enough that there are so many unfilled jobs that we believe that this could be, in fact, an entry point. Next slide, please. So again, this certificate is a mere 16 credit certificate. So that means there's only 4 classes and they're regularly offered. So a person could step in, step out, step in, step out. Again, we would look at it as if somebody did want to try to do it, they could complete it in 2 semesters. And then of course, ladder to an associate and bachelor's program. We are hoping to, and the courses that we've selected are helping to support the outcomes with respect to the knowledge units. And that's a term that the folks that provide the designation for becoming a center of academic excellence use, these knowledge units. But they also enable us to be able to provide students with that knowledge so that they may decide along the way as well to get some industry certifications. One of the things that's wonderful about the UP Cyber Hub is the idea that they're going to become a test center. And so we can, again, this is going to be adding on to, I believe, in supporting one another. So I've listed a couple of the certifications that students may be able to sit for at the end of one of or two of the courses in the certificate as well. And so we really think that this is going to be a good thing for working professionals. We probably will end up working with some of the K-12 schools because I know that what they're doing with their Marshall Plan endeavors, we'll be working together with respect to that. We do envision that our entire cyber program, though, will become an exempt unit. So the cyber certificate will be an exempt unit for our AACSB accreditation. And we're hoping, again, that once we get that designation as the Center of Academic Excellence, we'll have it for those 5 years. Next slide. There is capacity in the classes with respect to cyber at this point. I do envision at least appointing or hiring a program director and cyber defense faculty. As you all know, and you've heard me say on numerous occasions, we have one dedicated faculty line in that area who works really hard and is a fantastic professor. We do hope to increase the enrollments in both, in all of the certificate, associate, and baccalaureate programs. We want to make sure that we are providing funding for our facilities, software enhancements, and of course, we want to promote the program. And we hope to do that in partnering with, again, those K-12 schools. We may end up doing some work in the actual Upper Peninsula Cyber Hub and making the use of those facilities as well if we outgrow the current lab that we have in Hardin Hall. So, any questions that you have on this certificate?
Great presentation, Carol. I think, again, very relevant, reinforces all of the things that we're doing in the Upper Peninsula around cybersecurity. So great job. No questions from my side.
And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Your support has been fantastic, and we are really excited with both of these new programs because we think they're really going to be really good for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. All right, next we're going to hear from Bill on the theater and dance.
Hi, everybody. Just echoing everyone else's prior comments of thank you very much for having me here and being able to talk to you about 3 great programs that we're putting forth for hopefully your approval to really build a strong future. Can I go to the next slide, Kathy? I just want to give you kind of where this is coming from. Out of the SRA, we really tried to figure out where our roots were. I'm new, this is my 3rd year here at Northern, but when I came in, the program was a little bit stuck in 1980s with some of the degrees that we were offering. So before we started building programs, I really wanted to focus our team on why we were building it and what our through line needed to be. So consistency in these programs was huge within the national standards, international standards for entertainment and performance education. And through that consistency in our classes and what we were offering, that's going to really build a stronger academic culture to create better artists and performers and creatives. And then the next 2 are tradition and legacy. Those really build to and lead towards the growth of a program and becoming nationally recognized and put on the map. And I can tell you that that is my goal, to be a top 20 undergraduate performing arts program, and I truly believe it's attainable. So this is the foundation of which the Department of Theater and Dance is building its future. We have become a department as of the December board meeting, so we are relatively new. Kathy, can I have the next slide, please? So it is big changes for us. We are a department of 1 dance faculty and 5 theater faculty. Currently, we are offering the BS in Theater and Entertainment Arts and a minor in Theater and Entertainment Arts and a minor in Dance. And the goal here, the future, is to have a BFA in musical theater performance, a BFA in theater technology and design, a BA in dance, and we've added the BA to our theater program, and then the 2 minors would still be there. We know that minors aren't required, but some people do choose to get these certificates, and we will be working with the pods or whatever their cognates or whatever they're going to call the certificates, 16 credit clusters or 12 credit clusters, to do that. But our BFA in musical theater is 72 credits. Our BFA in technology and design is 74 credits, and our BA in dance is 70 credits, as long as theater. The reason we are moving towards the BFA, to give you some context, because you might not know, in the arts world, the BS degree is actually a holdover from when performance programs came out of communications departments. That's a lot of time where they started, or English, and they would give you the BS degree. That is not industry standard. We are not sending our students out there with a degree that is that is looked at by graduate programs and moving on. It is questioned sometimes. When we get reference calls, people ask, like, you really give out a BS? So we are trying to make change to move towards a positive future for our students. Can I have the next slide, please? So is this degree in demand? And I am speaking about all 3 of these. Yes, these theater programs and dance programs are top 70th percentile of search programs amongst universities polled and search engines reviewed by the Gray Associates data. This is a $760 billion industry. I can see a lot of you, but I'm assuming most of you in this COVID craziness have looked to entertainment to get through this. And a fun fact, when you're watching Netflix, those people aren't all film majors. Most people are actually theater degrees or dance degrees. And so one of the biggest things we're going to be doing in these programs, and what we've set ourselves up for, is training for not the 1% of jobs, as most people think of theater and dance as like you're going to go work in Broadway or in Chicago, but really training for the really broad 99% spectrum of opportunities that are out there. And I can definitely say artists are finding in a positive way that people are realizing, oh wow, we do like entertainment in the world because it does get us through times, be it music or dance or theater. I know Jeff is going to talk later, so I had to give a shout out to Jeff. With this industry, obviously, like most, our industry has been shut down, but they're creatively coming with ways to battle through COVID. And I do think that we will see a push for students to come, or artists that left high school and went straight to, I'm going to make it on Broadway, actually engage in getting a BFA in musical theater or tech and design or dance, or people going back to school. So can I have the next slide, please? So why BAs? When we're talking about the dance BA, we had a minor program. Jill Grunstrom, who is our world-class, talented, amazing faculty that we have here, was teaching the minor, and we were actually receiving requests to have a degree in it. Our closest programs, CMU just started one recently, is the closest one in the state of Michigan, and Wisconsin, about 100 miles into Wisconsin, is the next closest. So regionally, we have quite a bit of space, but it's creating the BAs to give you a lot of space and flexibility in what you're creating as an artist. So artists aren't cookie cutter. I will say that our students are not cookie cutter, and we're not going to just start a conveyor belt of the same thing coming out. It's a lot of different people, and we have built our education and the program to meet students where they're at, and to take them on their arc of development through their hopefully 4 years, not 5, through Northern. it's really a varied education, and it really does provide a home for students that need to try a little bit of everything. So again, we're always building triple threats. They might say they're a dance major or a performance major, or a tech and design major, but we need them to learn all areas. So within the BA, it's a little more general, a la carte, if you will. And through the guidance of our faculty and advising, we will carve a way to see who they are working towards their futures. Can I have the next slide? So the BFA, what the difference is, and these programs, it is definitely a more focused field of study. We find the students that are interested in the BFA, and we have many that are on our campus that have actually asked for this within our degree, as well as we've been soft marketing, seeing and testing the waters, doing research. People want the focused field of study. They come out of these top-notch high school programs, and they are looking for, I want to be a lighting designer, I want to be a performer, I want to be this, I want to be that. So the BFA is more for the student that when they finish their undergraduate wants to go straight into the workforce, where the BA is probably someone that wants to enter an MFA or a master's program and go on to graduate school. Some students that get BFAs might go into the graduate field, but when we're consulting with our freshmen and sophomore students, we do have these conversations. So the advising begins like day one with artists. But students will get to study their passion in a sequential order, developing knowledge. And it really is about professional preparedness. The BFA, when you're coming out of that, within all industry, entertainment, there's an expected standard of education and knowledge, and we're meeting and exceeding those industry standards within the program that we've created. And this rationale of going from the BS degree that we're having to the BFA is that it's marketable. It's totally needs to be out there. As someone who has a BS degree in theater and didn't have the BFA or the BA, I definitely found opposition to even when I was applying for jobs and being questioned on my resume, like, why do you have a bachelor's of science in art, if that makes sense. And we do need the two BFAs because you have to have the two sides. There's performance and there's the design and tech. So just a little bit, if I can have the next slide, Kathy. What can a performance degree do? A lot of people just think they're going to sing, dance, act on a Broadway musical. Besides performing in plays, training music park performers, we've seen a lot of theater majors go into law school. We currently have a few pre-law majors that are theater minors. And what can these do in working as art directors, human resources? Sometimes you get a performance degree doesn't mean that you're going to be a performer. You could be the head of arts and culture in a community. It's giving you that base of knowledge to set you up for the success. And so in our performance degrees of dance, someone might be running Vail Dance Festival, and we do teach the management courses within our programs. So they're not just getting performance skills, they are getting the business and entrepreneurship and careers, and really understanding how the money is. A lot of arts programs don't train for they train to be a good artist. They don't train to have the entrepreneurship and self-marketing and self-branding skills to go out there and get the job. And that's really the core of our course structure of what we're going to be doing within those 72 or 74 credits or 70 credits in the BA. If you go to the next slide, in the technical field, it really does get pretty wild. If you think of voice acting and film and TV, we have alumni that are currently working at Netflix. I personally take students to Coachella and Ultra Music Festival. We were literally taking students to go work at Ultra Music Festival in Miami, and then COVID, we got a call and said, don't get on the plane. We had students slated to go work and produce the NFL draft in their internship programs. These are opportunities that are pretty world class, and our faculty really takes our students out there to get real world experience. Most of this work is not in your traditional theater. We use the vessel of theater on our campus, but the BFA we're building here is ahead of the curve of our industry. So really trying to make sure that we're showing off the 99% of the jobs. So when things like this happen, they can go do corporate lighting or industrial museum lighting or They can go for performers. Medical schools actually bring in actors to be patients in simulations. We actually are working with the nursing program right now and sending our performance students to go get this training. They start at $25 an hour. So that's really good for an actor sometimes to do that. So if we go to the next slide, obviously these programs, we know that they're academically rigorous and that we've really put the work in to make sure we're meeting our industry standards, but that also, we can build this program, but is the viability there? Can we grow this program? We're growing it in multiple fronts, but through multiple recruiting events, our faculty is tirelessly working to make sure that we're engaging and getting the good word out there about our program. Working on accreditation is definitely something. We are in the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and music is accredited. Theater and dance are not accredited right now. So those are goals. We're working with our dean to get accredited. And really working on our regional and national recognition. We have our Theater for All program, which is a state award winning now, which is pretty exciting. Working at the Fringe Festival in Scotland, building a summer theater program to really get engagement out there, doing 10+ shows a year, over 90 performances. And then the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, we actually made a production, sent it there, and it was produced and selected. So we're building the national recognition, which is starting to get us known, and people are looking at our programs. I know this because Western Michigan University called me to ask about our website and how we were doing something. So competition is looking. If we go to the next slide, obviously resources are a big thing, and we're talking about that right now with COVID and all of those things. We currently can teach all of these programs with the 6 faculty we have in the department. We have a growth model here based on the goals to, if we hit certain major counts when we're talking with EPC and everything, to potentially get future faculty positions, but it can be taught with adjunct. We do have a 2-year teach out if that needs to be the case, but we are going to be successful. And we are seeing a ton of students engaging. We will have freshmen coming into both BFA programs as well as BA programs, as long pending board approval. But we have people seeking this out. And if we go to the last slide, just closer to home, I just want you to know, like, without these programs, we're seeing success. We're sending students on full rides right now to world-class graduate programs. We have students that are getting acting jobs in major regional theaters right out of undergraduate programs with what we have. So we really need these programs to take it step it up and take it to the next level. So so we've always had success within our program, and we just really need to build on that future. Questions? I know I talked a lot there. Sorry.
So can we go back a couple slides? I'm not sure who's manning it, but there was a slide about kind of what the current and what the future is going to look like. I just have a quick clarification question on that.
That's like the second slide.
Yeah, it was in the very beginning. So currently the BS that we have in the theater and entertainment arts, this will then be replaced, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a holdover from when we were in the communication and performance studies department, and we were kind of hybriding everything together. But now that we're our own department and we're really carving out our own identity, we're trying to deliver the degrees that the industry is demanding.
So we've got 6 people that have graduated in the 1920 school year based on the final slide, correct, Bill?
Yeah, that's happened. Yes, that happened.
Or was just a highlight?
This is just some highlights. This is just some highlights of people that are graduating.
Okay. How many people are currently in the existing program today?
I think we're at 33 majors. I'd have to look. It fluctuates.
Okay.
With the graduates that are happening, but we're expecting to see anywhere from 13 to 18 incoming freshmen based on the scholarships and auditions that we've had at all the regional recruiting events. We've done over 45 days worth of recruiting events this year.
Okay. And then some of those 30, and then the 33 will be that's total right now, so not graduating, correct? So it'll be essentially the 33 plus the 18.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
the goal. Yep.
Okay.
Is pending COVID. And we are nurturing every one of those candidates that we have, and marketing, and really actually putting the affordability. Our BFA program is sometimes 50, if not 75% cheaper than most BFA programs that exist out in the country. So our affordability and opportunity of being a smaller program that's on the growth should really help, because with doing 10 shows a year and being a smaller program, actors want to act, which means they can get into shows. So the way to market that to a designer and students, and our students freshman year and sophomore year are going to get into programs where I worked at Florida State University. They have 580 undergraduate theater majors, not counting their BFAs. That they don't get opportunities. So I think that we can get students where we have a transfer student that's coming from Wisconsin because they wanted a bigger student. We actually transferred in a student from Milliken, which is a really well-known undergraduate theater program. And he's like, I want opportunity. I was just sitting on the sidelines. So we're building the shows to do that. And that's what it's going to take.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions from the committee?
Normally I'd have a performance, but we're not in person. So I owe you a performance at the end of a Board of Trustees presentation.
Well, we had a great, I think it was the last time that we were up there. We had a fantastic one. I don't think you were there though at the time, Bill. It was for the performance that was performed at the White House, I believe, on the environment.
The What We Leave Behind. Yeah, I was actually presenting at a conference. Yeah, that was the Kennedy Center award-winning presentation. Yeah, so
yeah, it was fantastic.
I still owe you one. Every time I come, I normally want to present. I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to do that to you guys.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Dr. Vickers with the Bachelor of Music with elective studies in an outside field.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I know that's a mouthful of a program. There's a reason for that. I actually talked with Kim Rotundo, trying to figure out how is this going to all fit on a degree. Like they've got a small area where they can actually print it, and that's such a long degree title. So we had to come up with something. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So this program coming out of music was a multi-year there was a lot of things that prodded this to fruition, and it was collaborated with multiple departments. In fact, Carol Johnson and I had several meetings. I've spoken to Bill about it. So this is going to be a Bachelor of Music degree, but the elective studies, again, is going to be in some sort of a related field to music. And it developed out of suggestions from our recent NASM accreditation visit 4 years ago, discussions with Garrett Westlake when he was here, NASM. I went to a yearly NASM officials or department head / deans meeting and tried to come up with a new and innovative program. That's what we've been prodded to be: innovative, be forward thinking, and trying to come up with a new degree that will set us apart, that's not the same, as Bill said, cookie cutter situation. And so it's important to note that this was designed as a Bachelor of Music degree. The students will actually get a BM, and it's a 4-year program. So I'm looking at 2 screens right now, sorry. So we were seeing that we had students that wanted to study music, but then they felt like they were being forced to choose between. They had interests in finance or in management or in entrepreneurship, recording technologies. And so when the students got here, they may actually ultimately complete a degree from Northern Michigan University, but they were actually not getting a music degree, and they were changing their major outside because they felt like they were being forced to choose between. The idea is that we're going to try to keep them in music, and there's 4 areas of interest that are predetermined: music management, entrepreneurship, marketing, and publicity. And all 3 of those are pretty heavy, with the elective content being in the College of Business, but also even Bill's class, which is, Entertainment Arts Management. I forget the number, Bill, but so they'll be required to actually take classes outside of music And then they also have an elective element, which we all know that students want. They want the ability to actually choose something that goes toward their degree. It gives them a sense of investment, that they're the ones that chose this. So if they chose poorly, it's their fault. Of course, they'd still blame someone else. But and then the fourth area is multimedia production, which will go into the CAPS department, or CAMS. We may be calling it CAMS now, with media studies. And that one was developed. That the multimedia production will actually be the formal minor that has gone through academic senate now for basically recording technologies. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the program was designed, as I said, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. two Novembers ago, and attended a national meeting of NASM, and learned a lot about their distinguishing characteristics of the two degrees. They recognize professional degrees and then also the elective laden degrees like a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts. Well, we want this because we're trying to come up with ways that the students can get jobs in fields in music to have a professional degree. And the requirement from NASM is that 50% of the coursework be in the field of music. And ideally, we're going to try to keep the number of credits required low, but there's the requirement. And then 15% in the outside field, which equates, if you take 120 credits, that's 18 credits. We just said, you know what, we're going to do 20 credits for the elective options, because typically all of those classes that are going to be available to the students in those outside fields, they're all 4-credit courses, and you can't get 18. It's like trying to fit a square into a round hole. They're going to end up with 20 anyway, so we just included it as part of the requirement. So again, the students will be completing a comprehensive curriculum in music, which is on par and very similar to our other offerings, degree offerings in music. But then the outside field, I think, is really what students are going to get excited about here, being able to study both and get a degree that says both. The program is going to culminate in a professional internship semester, just like we have with internships across campus. But the idea is that the students will have completed, 3.5 years, or possibly more, depending on how long they take, in a music-related professional field. Now, it may be in a recording studio. It may be working in the finance department of a large music store. It may be as an intern working for a ballet company or something having to do with personnel, but it's going to have some professional setting that is related to music that is not intentionally not education. Preliminary accreditation, we've been working both with our curriculum undergraduate planning committee here, as well as NASM, and we've already received. It's really important that we not offer degrees that are not accredited, being an accredited department. And so we worked with NASM. We have already received preliminary approval for this plan. And it was their recommendation. One of the things that we initially thought about was doing a music business degree. But then we found out for each variant of that, we would have to have a completely different degree. And so this is a way for us to have one new degree, go through this process one time, and have a variety of outside fields. We could, once we get this approved, we could add additional outside fields and not have to go through the reaccreditation process. So the final accreditation through NASM will be considered, and we can have listing in their program, their online recognition after we have 3 graduates and their transcripts are examined, and we did what we said we were going to do with them. Next slide, please. Okay, the rationale again is that through prompting both from the SRA, from Garrett Westlake's video, sorry, my computer's froze, and we're trying to seek to diversify our offerings in music at NMU. And the degree probably would have retained some of the majors that we have seen recently, and I could give specific names of individuals who started a degree in music but ultimately have changed to business or multimedia production. Again, they just felt torn. They weren't sure which that they wanted to do, and ultimately they decided to go the other route. They still take lessons, they still participate in music ensembles, but they didn't feel like that they wanted to only have a music degree. They wanted both. So this again is going to provide training for careers in a music related field outside of public school education, which we have heard repeatedly from students, from recruits, that it is identified as a need, that we need to have some other offering that is not education. More and more students are coming out of high school and saying, I don't want to do that. They seek specifically to have, I don't think anyone gets into music expecting that they're going to get a six-figure job. Let's just be honest, they just don't. But they do want to have a professional opportunity and know that they have a goal that after 4 years, I'm going to try to get a job in this sector. So the rarity of this program, what's nice, and one of the reasons why we ultimately went with this, was that currently no other university in Michigan is offering an identical elective-laden program. There are others. There's a music business program. Ann Arbor has a large school of music with a variety of degrees, but there's nothing in there in Michigan right now that's offering so many elective opportunities. And at the time of the proposal that we put together for the Academic Senate and CUP, and even now, there's only about a dozen universities in the U.S. According to NASM, there's only about a dozen universities in the U.S. that are offering similar programs. So the name of the program, the Bachelor of Music with Elective Studies in an Outside Field, it just doesn't roll off the tongue, but that is the degree that they recognize currently at NASM. That's what NASM, our accrediting body, is calling it. Next slide, please. So we get down to resources. This is always, important for people that are making decisions, especially with finance. This new degree is a repackaging of existing courses, both music and outside fields. We're only actually adding 2 new courses to the catalog for this program. One of them is the intern course for the final semester, and the other one has actually been taught before. It's basic jazz improvisation, but a few years ago, in fact, it was before, this is my 6th year at NMU, and before I got here, they resubmitted that to be more of a private lessons situation. So now we're going to bring that back as a course that's required for this new degree, because it addresses some of the aspects of music in the commercial sector, the non-classical sector, that will be important for students or future professionals as they get out into the field. So only 2 new courses will need to be added, and all of them can be taught with existing faculty. This will also see, we'll be able to generate new credit hours, some for theater, some for business, and there'll be a collaboration effect between multiple departments here. So the resources that we also have the recording and sound editing needs that can be handled with the courses that are being taught in the multimedia, the CAPS equipment down in the recording booth that we have in TFA, or excuse me, that's McClintock. Also, we have some new sound and video equipment in Reynolds Recital Hall that was from the capital equipment replacement plan in last fiscal year, and we also had a $50,000 grant for new video equipment from a generous donation over the summer last year. So we've got some really excellent state-of-the-art equipment in our primary performance facility. We do have a desired 5th outside field that would be new music media, with the intention of future expansion. We originally submitted this, but it would require a 3-year term faculty position for launch, because we currently don't have a music composition instructor. This music composition instructor could also double with theory, but this new music media, when we get around to offering it, could also include things like composition for audio visual things like, sorry, I just went brain dead, like software music or video game music or enhanced reality music, things that go along. We have all these new augmented reality goggles and things like that. Well, there's sound that's being played behind that, and someone has to compose that music. And so in order to get to where we're really thinking ahead with the new 21st century media, we're going to probably need a music composition instructor. We don't have to have that. That's just for expansion of the program. And this was included as a recommendation from the SRA response, but has not yet been approved. And obviously with the difficulties that we're facing right now, we're well aware that that probably won't be approved in the very near future. Yearly enrollment is anticipated. We're hoping 6 to 10 which would help us almost double our enrollment in music majors. And it would also help increase the enrollment for all of our music courses. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it. That's all for me. So thanks for listening to me rant and rave. Any questions that I can answer, please?
Okay. No questions from our side, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good program.
Thanks very
So,
much.
Yep. And I do want to just note the time here. I know that we had a lot on our plate today. So Bob, if you're on the line and want to share with us the Welding Technology Associate of Applied Science.
I am here, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. The Welding Technology Associate's degree would be a 60-credit degree. It was really designed by faculty to go beyond the entry level for individuals who are looking to get beyond entry level. Right now in the region, the 3 schools that are offering welding post-secondary are only offering a 1-year welding certificate. And this would be the first in the region to take and provide a associate's degree specific to welding. It utilizes mostly existing courses. It's really centered around 4 new courses that involve advanced technologies and welding techniques. The faculty from both welding and industrial maintenance were responsible for putting this program together, and they, in the process, have revamped and upgraded or updated curriculum in both of those programs as a result. One of the things I wanted to point out is it's the first time students in the region will be exposed to basic robotic welding, both functions and programming, and that's not only an outcome from working with the Manufacturing Marshall Plan group, but it's also an outcome of looking ahead in what's going on with Industry 4.0 and the move to more robotics generally across all of industry. As far as projections, 6% doesn't sound like a lot, but in Michigan, that's 1,300 jobs annually. The use of robotics is just climbing, and welding's no exception. We looked January 28th, just as a snapshot, there were over 100 jobs in Michigan that were specific to robotic welding or had robotic welding mentioned in the job skill set that was required. And nationally on the same day, there were 5,400 jobs that also mentioned robotic welding as skill sets that they were looking for. Next slide, please. This is a bulletin copy of what the program looks like. It's, as I said, 60 credits, the 15 required general education credits, and then you see that we have 43 credits in the technical core, which is a lot, but we broke that down into introductory and advanced, and they're pretty specific to certain kinds of welding applications and technology. Next slide, please. And I mentioned that it gives the 1-year certificate students from the 3 UP schools the only specific ladder to continue their education in welding beyond the entry level. Not only is it going to be an opportunity for us to retain some welding students who don't want to ladder. Currently, they can ladder into industrial maintenance, or they can also ladder into engineering technology, but this will give them the opportunity to specifically ladder into a welding program. We've had conversations with some of the administrators at Bay and Go-Gebic, both of whom are pretty excited about this program to start because they have students that they think would be very interested in getting beyond the entry-level skills that are currently provided by the 1-year certificates. I have a lot of numbers up here, but really the bottom line is our goals are much more aggressive than what the break even is. The break even over 5 years is 36 students. really that's a factor of the fact that we're using existing classes for most of the program, and we're going to move faculty around so that our full-time faculty are going to teach the advanced classes, and then we'll backfill those faculty with adjuncts to teach the introductory classes. And so the program itself, in terms of resources, is minimal. The equipment for the program, if we had to pay for that ourselves, would be quite expensive. It's through the Marshall Plan, we've got $192,000 worth of equipment that takes care of all of the needs for the new programming. Both it includes 2 welding robotics, as well as some advanced pipe welding equipment. So it's pretty low cost. Even with that, our expectations are to build from the first year of 12 to, by the 3rd year, 50 students, and continue that through the evaluation period, which would be at the end of the 5 years. As I said, in terms of an exit strategy, we'll evaluate in 5 years. Because we're moving full-time faculty to the advanced courses and backfilling with adjuncts, it would not be difficult to rescale the faculty for this program as to what we needed by just not renewing the adjunct contracts with a 1-year teach out, simply because it's a 2-year program. That's what I have. Any questions?
Lisa, Donna, any questions from your side?
Nope.
Hopefully,
I really, just a comment, I really enjoyed all of the presentations today. I learned a lot and really excited about everything that I heard today. It's very encouraging.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much.
So I was reminded that we need to take a vote in the Academic Affairs Committee to bring these to the full board in the meeting that's going to start at 3:30. So if we circle back to the initial agenda item for the charter schools, so let's take a vote within this committee that we will bring forward the 2 charter schools for new contracts, and that's Nottawash and JKL Bowating. I think I've got that one right.
You did, yeah.
Right. So we'll bring that to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we'll bring that forward to the formal committee. Next on the list then would be the Academic Affairs Committee vote for the new programs. I think if my count is right, there were 8 new programs. Are there any concerns? And we'll bring it to a vote to bring these 8 programs to the formal board for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Carrie, did I do my due diligence on that one?
You did.
Hey, all right. Good. So I think we're going to turn it over to Steve at this point, and Tammy, who's the chair of this committee for the extended learning.
Thank you, Alexis. So I would like to call to order a meeting of the Extended Learning and Community Engagement Committee. First of all, I want to point out that we don't have any action items on the agenda for this committee meeting. I had asked Vice President Steve Vandenhoven to provide us with some updates on different programs, specifically on the cannabis-related programs, and then also to help us understand how the programs in extended learning and community engagement have been affected by this change in delivery required by the governor's stay-home order. So, Steve, can I turn this over to you and let you get started then?
Great, thanks. So this is just a cover slide. You can advance to the next one, please, Kathy. Thank you. So because some of you are new to extended learning and community engagement and to this committee, and because it's always a nice reminder to get a sense of the breadth of the programs that we try to cover in extended learning and community engagement, I always like to start out with the org chart. And so if you recall from your orientation to this committee and to the division, the org chart is sort of organized on the left from the programs that clearly involve educational components, some of them credit and some of them non-credit. And then sort of along that continuum to the right side to the community and corporate engagement side. So the programs that I'm going to update you on today are found in extended learning in the College of Technology and Occupational Sciences and in innovation, economic development, and community engagement. So those first two boxes on the left, and then the second to last, if you go left to right on the right. Next slide, please. So Trustee Seaboy thought that it might be a good idea to update you on some of the burgeoning array of credit and non-credit offerings related to cannabis that are coming out of extended learning and community engagement. So sort of in chronological order of when they're going to be implemented, starting with a non-credit cannabis education program that's in partnership with a company called Green Flower Education and Media. As you know from medicinal plant chemistry, there's clearly a demand for professionals in this industry. So this is very much related to workforce development issues. I was reading just the other day that the annual sales in the cannabis related industries are going to top 15 billion, which ironically surpasses Taco Bell's annual sales, and will also soon surpass the revenue generated by the NFL. And so the industry really needs trained workforce for all the way from growing to the retail end of the cannabis industry. So Green Flower is currently one of the nation's leaders and one of the nation's only non-credit cannabis education companies. And I think it's important to note, I don't know if you followed the link that's on the in the packet on the slide. It's important to note that they're a media company as well. And we've had discussions, I think some of them in this group, that during about the past 5 years or so, a major differentiator in online education has been media. I mean, there are a lot of universities, most universities have online programs. Many of them partner with marketing companies, and some of them even partner with companies that help them manage their online programs. But very few fewer have really high quality interactive media that engages students that take online programs through any particular university. It's actually one of the reasons why in extended learning, we've been trying to focus a little bit on virtual reality to sort of leapfrog ahead and offer an engaging media experience that not many other universities are doing in an online environment. So I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that this differentiator is going to become even more pronounced as the online environment and the online marketplace gets even more crowded as a result of COVID. So we partnered with Green Flower in March after discussing this with Kurt and our legal counsel and his team. And we're going to be partnering with them on 4 different non-credit certificate programs. One in cannabis law and policy, another in cannabis healthcare and medicine, a third in the business of cannabis, sort of the retail end of cannabis, and then one in cannabis agriculture and horticulture. And each of these non-credit certificates has about 3 to 4 self-paced courses, each costing about $1,100. So each course costs about $1,100. So that program should be, it will be launched before July 1st. We've just had meetings with them this week and last week, and with marketing and communication on the use of our logos. They have done interviews with Forbes and Politico and US News and World Report, mentioning their partnership with us. And we just got notice yesterday that Forbes wants to talk to some representatives from the university. So this is going to be a pretty, I think, high profile news of this partnership. The second program is a program that you will recall you approved at a special meeting in March, and many thanks to the entire board, not only the entire board, for convening at a special meeting in March to review this, but to the provost and her office for adjusting schedules to get this going. This is a program that shows, as you saw in the presentation from Evan a couple of months ago, and then Bob in March, shows a lot of promise. And although the program doesn't contain cannabis content, many of the concepts in the indoor ag program have clear and direct applications to the cannabis industry, whether it's horticulture or building and design for indoor growing and construction, indoor environment, HVAC issues, environmental impacts, so on and so forth. So this is I think an interesting program because it's interdisciplinary, involving courses from EEGS and biology and chemistry, and it's a cross-college interdisciplinary collaboration. And as you know from the SISU Institute that Carrie's been leading, that will be one of the purposes of the SISU Institute, is to allow more cross-collaboration, interdisciplinary programs to emerge, and the SISU Institute will foster these types of collaborations. We already have students signing up for fall courses in indoor ag, and we have a plan for, once we can get back on site, for some renovations to the Jacob Eddy Center, minor renovations relative to the overall capital project, mainly involving water supplies to the area where the courses will take place in labs. And then the third is an online credit program related to cannabis, planned for the fall of 2020. It would be an online program, and it would sort of piggyback on some of the educational offerings in the non-credit program that we're going to be launching with Green Flower in the upcoming weeks. And you'll notice, hopefully, that we've started with programs that are less related to federal financial aid issues and federal law. Again, the non-credit program partnership with Green Flower was discussed with legal counsel, and we've made the decision to move forward. It seems to have the least risk relative to state and any sort of state and federal laws, especially the federal laws. And so you'll notice that we started out with the programs that have the greatest distance and the least amount of risk, and then we're moving towards programs that are more directly related to cannabis and as it relates to federal law and federal financial aid. But we feel like we've been pretty strategic and intentional, sort of taking baby steps into playing in this rapidly expanding space. Next slide, please. Unless there are questions about this right now. So as Tammy and I were talking a bit about, she was interested in what the response has been and the impact of this COVID situation has been on extended learning programs. we talked a little bit about, I've gotten similar questions and comments from folks not only on campus, but from the community about the impact of the COVID crisis on the global campus, because we converted from face-to-face to online or at distance learning for all of our students. And I just sort of realized that there are some, probably some confusion or misconceptions about the difference between online learning or distance learning as a format and the global campus. So I put this slide in here just so that all of you on the Extended Learning Committee kind of understand that that the concepts aren't identical. The global campus is really a virtual campus built for students who for some reason can't make it to campus, either because they're working adults, and many of our global campus students are, or they're in high school and so they can't come to campus because it's too far to make it to campus and then back to their high school in a timely fashion. But it's built mainly for working adult students who can't come to campus for an education. And so whether that's the way that we recruit, or the student services that we have, or the format that we provide the education, we've built this campus to meet their needs, right? And so it just happens to be that online education is one of the best ways that adults can get their education without having to come to campus, but the two are not synonymous. So anytime you hear online learning, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the global campus. We have on-campus students who are taking online courses all the time. Most recently, all of their courses. And then another sort of caveat: what we did in converting our on-campus courses to distance was nothing short of a miracle. It was basically 4 days between the time that we decided to go completely at a distance and the faculty were delivering their courses at a distance. But what we did in that process wasn't the usual process that we use for online courses, whether the courses are for our global campus students or not. There's a whole process that we've developed, an online teaching fellows program, to train faculty how to design their courses for an online environment. And much of what we did in this quick conversion was, using the learning management system and then using Zoom to deliver the instruction. So even the process that we use is a little bit different in the response to the COVID case that we usually use in global campus programs. So again, because some of you are new to extended learning, I just want to remind you that extended learning is not about the format. It's more about the population of students and the supports that you need to deliver an education to those types of students. The format is just one element of the global campus. Next slide. So one of Tammy's initial questions was, so how did this impact the programs? And so I didn't realize that we might have another opportunity in May to share enrollment numbers. So I put these slides in here. Thought you might want to see how the global campus was affecting, or the COVID crisis was affecting the global campus enrollments. And as you might have guessed, it hasn't impacted them hardly at all for this semester, because our students were taking their courses completely online anyway. And remember that when we talk about global campus enrollments, we're talking about students who do not take any on-campus courses. These are students at a distance who, if we were not offering completely online programs, could not get an NMU degree. So they're already taking all of their coursework online. Some of them did try that. I think we converted, or we called the face-to-face semester off on a Thursday or on a Wednesday night and canceled on-campus classes for Thursday and Friday, and expected that classes would resume on Monday at a distance. And our students were wondering if they could take Thursday and Friday off as well, but it didn't fly. So there was very little interruption in their schedules. The only element we were worried about is if the faculty who were teaching online courses to global campus students also had face-to-face courses that they would be extremely busy attending to the, to the transfer from a face-to-face to a distance format. But our students did not notice any difference in the attentiveness or the performance of any of their instructors. So I think it went off, I think, as well as it possibly could have. So I'm really proud of our entire institution for doing that. But then even in terms of the impact of the COVID crisis on whether or not our students are going to return in the summer or in the long term. But I think these two, this slide or these two charts exemplify is it doesn't seem to have impacted our students hardly at all. In fact, our enrollments are up for both the summer and the fall. And you'll notice that not only taking the chart on the left, not only is the blue line, which is this summer, higher than, in terms of raw numbers, higher than the other two lines, which represent the previous two summers, but you'll notice that the blue line is at least slightly steeper. So it looks like our students we're getting more enrollments earlier, and that could flatten off, but to this point, we're seeing more enrollments this summer, and a steeper incline in enrollments than we have in either of the past two summers. So this is all good news for the summer. I'm imagining that these data were pulled before we eliminated the course distance ed fee for all online courses, whether you're a global campus student or not. And so we might even see further increases as students try to, take advantage of the not having to pay that fee this summer. And then looking at the right chart on the fall, you see a sort of a similar pattern in that we're up significantly over previous years in terms of enrolled students. Most of the students on both the left and right charts are returning students, right? We do get some global campus students who start in the summer with us, but fall is still the most popular time for any student, including global campus student, to start their academic career, followed by January and then the summer. But students on the right, almost all of those students are returning students in those enrollment numbers. It's just really too early to make predictions about fall enrollment. Brad Hamill, who's now on the call, usually updates you with regard to global campus enrollments and reminds you how, online students are mainly working adult students, and they're different. And so even everything's different about them. The way that they search for degrees, the way that they apply, and even their enrollment patterns and re-enrollment patterns are much different than you would expect. And a lot of our applicants, we don't see until 2 or 3 months before the semester is going to start is the first time we even know that they're interested in applying. So, but the picture still looks good, and I was happy to see those numbers when they came out. Another bit of encouraging news with regard to global campus enrollment is we have a couple of new programs, including construction management, which is converting some of their curriculum to an online format to offer a degree completion program for people working in the construction industry who already have the hands-on knowledge and don't need that, and to be able to finish up a construction management 4-year degree. That will start this fall, and we already have students very interested in that. And then in electrical engineering technology is going to be offering a similar program. They're going to be doing live Zoom sessions of their courses on campus here. And then we have a unique, sort of like a robot who we're going to be placing at North Central Technical College in Wausau. And so students in that area will be able to go to the labs, and our instructor here will be able to sort of roam around the labs and interact with students using a remote control robot. So that's slated for the fall start as well. So I'm guessing that That chart that you see is going to increase even more as we get more brand new students into the mix as a result of these new online programs. The best growth that we've been seeing in the global campus has come out of areas like psychology. It's been a consistent performer. Clinical lab sciences, I think we're going to see a huge bump in that given the whole COVID situation and the interested in lab science and testing. And then applied workplace leadership continues to be a really strong program. Next slide. So then with regard to the Northern Promise, as a reminder, the Northern Promise includes opportunities for high school students to get college credit while they're still in high school. And there are three main ways that students do that. One is dual enrollment, and dual enrollment is when they enroll either by coming to our campus and sitting alongside our regularly matriculated on-campus students, or take an online course alongside our on-campus students or our global campus students. That's dual enrollment, where we're just providing courses that we always provide, and students are coming to take those courses, whether they're online or on campus. Concurrent enrollment is the program that we most often talk about, where we have vetted high school teachers to teach courses on behalf of the university in the high schools to high school students. So it's a little bit different model than dual enrollment. And then the middle college is yet a third type of system or process for allowing high school students to get college credit while they're still in high school. And that's the program where they enroll in the middle college while they're still sophomores in high school. And then their junior year, they start taking a college course. Their senior year, they take a couple of more. They come here to take those courses on campus, face to face. And then they spend a fifth year in high school where they're basically still dually enrolled in both their high school and the university. I'm going to be reporting, as usual, on the concurrent enrollment version of the Northern Promise. You might recall that we converted to distance learning a few weeks before the governor made a decision about how the remainder of the K-12 school year would play out. I think Casey mentioned this in his presentation. In the time between when we called everything online or at a distance, and the K-12 system got their orders, there was a 2 or 3 week period where they were actually asked to stand down and not provide any instruction to high school students, whether they were in concurrent enrollment classes or not. And the debate it always comes back to, are concurrent enrollment courses high school courses that students happen to get college credit for, or are they college courses that students happen to get high school that count towards their high school requirements? And the answer is yes, it's both. But in this case, the MDE wanted told the UP districts to basically stand down and not offer any instruction to K-12 students until they could figure out a way to do it that was equitable and fair. So there was a couple week period where our concurrent enrollment instructors were not actively engaged with their students for the concurrent enrollment course, but they were reaching out to the university to make arrangements in the event that they had to finish the course in an online or distance environment. So we used that 2 weeks to reach out not only to our concurrent enrollment instructors, but to all K-12 districts, especially the really rural districts around the UP, to offer them access to the EAN. And there were still some households we couldn't make it to in terms of EAN access. And then you probably saw that we reached out in terms of the use of public television as a way for school districts to deliver some of their content. So the concurrent enrollment instructors spent those couple of weeks sort of preparing for what we all thought was an inevitability, that they'd have to finish online. They've done that. They haven't missed a beat. and will meet all of the deadlines that we have proposed to them. We've changed some of the deadlines, like when grades are due, and even in terms of the satisfactory, unsatisfactory option that we're giving to our on-campus students, we're also giving to our concurrent enrollment students. So, but we modified a couple of the deadlines, and the courses are on track to complete on time. The impact that this is going to have on whether or not our current partners are going to continue with concurrent enrollment is unknown. We have no indications that schools are interested in pulling out, but we're just not going to be able to enroll students in the same way. We've made a really concerted effort to enroll students about this time of year. In fact, we would go to some of the districts and bring some of our concurrent enrollment faculty, like JD, who I'm not sure is still on the line, who presented before, would come with us and present to students who were interested in concurrent enrollment, let them know what they were getting into. They get to meet a real live faculty member, and then we would take pictures and get for their IDs and get them engaged in the process already. We're not going to be able to do that. So some of these enrollments might have to wait until we're into the fall semester, which means they may or may not show up on 10th day numbers. So, but we have no indication that our partners aren't going to continue. The state budget, as you all know, is up in the air, and so that might change going down the road. Time will have to tell. And then another element related to concurrent enrollment is you may or may not remember that the Higher Learning Commission, our primary accreditor for the university, has determined that concurrent enrollment instructors, the high school teachers, not only need a master's degree, which they need now, they need at least 18 graduate credits in the discipline that they're teaching. So many concurrent enrollment instructors, not only in our partner districts, but throughout the state and throughout the nation, have master's degrees in education, but they don't have the graduate credits in the content area. So by 2022, the fall of 2022, that's a requirement for any concurrent enrollment program. And so what we've decided to do is we've asked our math and English departments if they would be interested and willing to offer those courses online, not only to our concurrent enrollment partner teachers, but to any teachers throughout Michigan or throughout the nation. And both departments have stepped up to the plate, and we will be offering the 18 graduate credits that that teachers will need to participate in concurrent enrollment programs. What's really unique about what we're offering, because there are a few other schools that are doing it as well, universities, a couple of them in Michigan. We're offering special discounted rates for our current partners. We're offering special rates that aren't quite as discounted for other high school teachers within Michigan. And then we're offering another rate for teachers who might be interested who are outside of the state of Michigan. And we're really competitive on price. So I think we're going to be able to serve our current partners and partners within Michigan, and then augment that with teachers who will inevitably be interested in what we have to offer, not only because of the offerings are tailored to high school students or to high school teachers. And so it's some of the graduate courses in math you might guess would get really in depth and into theory. The math department's done a great job of making sure that they're graduate level courses, but they're tailored to practical graduate math. So I think that's another reason that we'll get interest in this program from outside the state. In fact, we've gotten interest in inquiries from Indiana already, from Wisconsin, and of course from Michigan and the UP. So that is my report for all of extended learning and community engagement. Do you have any questions?
Steve, I do. First of all, I thank you very much for the report. I do appreciate the update on all of this. But with respect to the college teaching credential, you've got math and English graduate courses, but I know we have other online courses that are in different departments, like psychology you mentioned. So would any of the psychology courses be able to be used by people trying to get college teaching credentials in the same way? Is that possible?
It could, yeah. The problem is there are very few concurrent enrollment courses, programs in psychology. Most of them are in math and English. Our initial focus was on our current partners, and our current partners, the only thing that we're offering with regard to concurrent enrollment is math and English. So if we were to launch something in psychology, it would be focused on other high schools in the state that might be offering psychology through, in concurrent enrollment or outside of the state. But it's definitely a next step we could think about taking if we thought there was demand for it.
I wondered also about, I know we have an MSW as well, and I wondered whether that would also help, because I think about this in terms of what the high schools call social studies. And, you know, in the different classes that they offer that way, and what that might help a student to accomplish while still in high school through this.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the, I'm not sure I know of any programs that are offering, I mean, they're not offering social work courses through concurrent enrollment. I'm not sure if a social work graduate course would count towards social studies or not. It's something I could probably explore. Usually courses like history will count towards the social studies requirement. And we have talked to the history department too. They're interested in the possibility of doing this as well. We just don't have current partners that are offering history concurrent enrollment courses.
Thank you. Donna or Alexis, do you have any other questions for Steve?
I don't, thank you.
No questions from my side. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate all your work on this, and great report. We are ready to call this meeting to a close unless anybody has anything else. Okay, thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
And we'll have the regular board meeting starting at 3:30 this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.